Koreans are so nice to foreigners. You need to be meaner to us. 적대급.
안녕하세요. 집 나간 외국인의 험난한 생존기를 공유하는 외국사촌 글로벌 리포터 진입니다.
수수입니다.
자, 오늘 우리가 나와 있는 곳은 해방촌이라고 하는 동네인데 오늘 우리가 만나볼 외국인, 요분 또 아주 흥미로운 취미를 가지고 계시더만요, 그쵸?
네, 맞아요. 이번 외국인은 취미가 스탠드업 코미디라고 해요.
스탠드업 코미디라는 말 자체가 할 때는 어색한 것 같아. 뭐야 도대체 스탠드업 코미디가?
한마디로 말해서는 말장난하는 건가요?
더 정확히 표현하면 뭔가 풍자가 아닌가 싶어요. 그 유튜버 풍자 말고.
나 그 생각했어. 그분이 얼마나 말을 잘하시는지 이야기를 나눠보고 싶네요.
과연 코미디언은 말빨이 좋을 것인가?
거의 다 왔어요.
Could you introduce yourself?
안녕하세요. 저는 미국에서 온 크리스틴이라고 합니다. 만나서 반갑습니다.
What do you do in Korea?
I work right now at a PR agency, and I'm also a stand-up comedian. Oh, and 형어 선생님이 아니에요. That makes me better than all foreigners.
How long have you been living here?
Lived in Haebangchon for 2.5 years. I've lived in Korea for 3 years. I've been here for my university for an economics course. But the first time I came to Korea long term, I lived in Busan for 2 months. 부산 대학교에서 한국어를 공부했어요. Yes. And through networking, I was able to meet the boss of my first startup. So I worked remotely in the US for 5 months, then moved here.
해방촌에서 2년 동안 살았다고 하는데 장단점이 있을까요?
So what I like about living in Haebangchon, or HBC as the locals call it, there's kind of a sense of community that you don't get in a lot of other places in Korea. Like a lot of people move and live here a long time and they know each other. Like a lot of the restaurant owners, they're all in a group chat. You get a lot of variety. There's a Vietnamese restaurant next to a South African bar, next to an American pub, next to a Moroccan place, next to a gay bar. So you see a lot of diversity.
What's the bad part about living here? Like,
There's so many foreigners here. You can survive your whole life without speaking Korean if you want to. I go to bars and restaurants.
Yeah.
I order in Korean. And they respond to me in English. I'm like, I know, but please, I want to practice. I need help. My Korean is so bad. 쓰레기예요. Koreans are so nice to foreigners who only speak English. You need to be meaner to us. You're in Korea. Speak Korean.
맞아. 이게 한국 사람들이 진짜 외국인을 만나면 한국어로 하는 게 잘못된 게 아닌데 영어로만 말해야 될 것 같은 게 있어.
And the only other downside in the area is it can get a little loud at night. A lot of the English teachers like to come here, party, and get drunk. If you want to practice your English, this is the place. Yes.
if you want to practice Korean, this isn't it.
If you want a foreigner boyfriend or girlfriend, this is the place.
We have a little bit of gift. Small gift.
Are you giving me the MacBook?
It's actually in our tradition. When you go to somebody's house for the first time, you have to bring them a gift. So next time when we visit, we won't have any gift.
So excited. Tea! I love tea.
Yes.
So it's like a tea collection.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so cute. Thank you so much. 너무 감사합니다. Knock it out. 적대급.
Let's talk about stand-up comedy, not standing
Stand.
comedy. So for us, stand-up comedy is pretty new. So what exactly is a stand-up comedy?
Every country kind of has its own style on stand-up comedy. But at the end of the day, it's kind of you, a microphone, telling jokes. You could tell jokes in a lot of different ways. So it's very easy to start. Like the barriers are low, but making yourself that vulnerable to a group of strangers, that's where it's difficult.
How did you get into stand-up comedy?
I started doing comedy writing when I was at my university in the US. And then I moved to Korea. I worked in the K-pop industry for a year and I'm like, I'm going crazy. I need an outlet. So I saw a Facebook advertisement for a comedy show. All I was doing was working at that point. I didn't really have friends of my own. And so I just went to this comedy show by myself. I saw them perform and I'm like, this is really fun. And they're like, oh, you do comedy? comedy, come to our open mic on Sunday. So I did, performed for like the first time in Korea here, and then they booked me for a show on Valentine's Day the following week. I performed in Mast, I performed in different bars, I've performed on rooftops, but I was able to keep doing comedy and try, fail, improve. My stand-up comedy career, because I haven't gotten paid because I'm a professional, it didn't really start till I was in Korea. So being shaped really by like international influence and the expat perspective.
How do you get the comedy idea?
I pull a lot of what happens to me in my life. What stuff makes me sad? How can I use this and exploit myself on stage for laughs? So that's often where I start, like going to Hongdae and meeting the random Korean fuckboys that ask me, oh, where are you from? Russia, 사람이 아니에요. 톡대.
So earlier you said that you've started doing comedy professionally, like getting paid here in Korea, right? Completely different culture from US. Do you feel there is like a different sense of humor?
There is, but it also really depends on the audience and the venue that you're at. So I've actually performed all over Korea. Itaewon, Hongdae, Chuncheon, Incheon, Pyeongtaek. I've traveled around a bit. What you really have to do is you have to look at the audience, you have to figure out, okay, where are a lot of the people from and what jokes are going to resonate. And that might have to change depending on which audience. So I have to be very aware, like, okay, what jokes are the Koreans going to like? How can I simplify my jokes in a way that they'll understand? And between Korean culture and, Western culture, the sense of humor varies very widely. I know Korean comedy, it's very physical comedy, gag-based, character-driven comedy. Lots of like funny stories, but not necessarily jokes. In the US, it's the opposite. Typically you're up on stage, you're telling jokes, you're telling stories. It's a little rarer to see like gag comedy, physical comedy. But those two are very different.
What do Koreans laugh at the most?
They are really interested in my experience kind of living as a foreigner in Korea. And if I can incorporate jokes with Korean in them, then they like them. Like if I cuss in Korean on stage, Koreans will laugh. It doesn't matter what I say. Jokes about how I look like Anne Hathaway.
Anne Hathaway 닮았는데? 진짜 그러고 보니까?
Yeah. The Koreans love that joke. I am the knockoff Anne Hathaway. Yeah. 저는 Anne Hathaway이지만 싸요. But Americans and certain countries in Europe, they really like the dark jokes that I make. I don't know if Koreans necessarily like the extremely dark stuff that I do. Part of it could be culturally. And if I talk about my parents, I know like respect for your parents here is such a big thing culturally. If I say anything that might criticize my parents, it's just very different.
Also, I think certain subjects are taken more serious and more humanly wrong in Korea, such as school bullying at the moment. That's something that you can't be joke. Whereas in US, the way I feel it is you can't talk about race. Yeah, that's a big thing.
But part of stand-up comedy is you have to push the line of what's okay. Sometimes you step over it, and it's a lot of trial and error too. That's why we have open mics where you write and you test out new jokes. We have weekly co-writing sessions where we all meet together like in a cafe and we read our jokes out loud and we help workshop each other's jokes. So it's a lot of like trial, error, but typically I like to talk about the topics that are taboo because that says a lot about what each culture is really like. Korea has its own set of taboos.
Talk out your problems, right?
Free therapy. We can't afford it in the US.
What is your comedy's goal or dream?
Well, when I started, I viewed it as a creative outlet. I thought, oh, this will just be a hobby. It's a good way to meet people, a good way to make friends. But the more I do it, well, what if I tried to do it professionally? What if I decided to take that chance? I like stand-up comedy because when you're in entertainment, there is like a ticking clock over your head. The older you get, the less viable you are in the entertainment industry. Stand-up comedy is something that you can do at any age, and most comedians don't actually peak until their 30s. So I have some time. What if I did want to try to do this full-time professionally?
I'm the full-time comedian and part-time office worker.
Yes, exactly.
Would it be like dream of yours? Go up to the stage one day and there are like 20 people holding your sign?
Yeah, that would be a little overwhelming. A little much. I've gotten recognized like twice, like walking down an Itaewon, someone saw me, they're like, oh, you're the comedian. I'm like, I feel so famous. What? I don't know if I'd want to be famous, but I just want to get to a point where I could like financially sustain myself and be comfortable doing comedy.
Yeah. So if you have chance,
Send me money.
lastly, do you have any tip that you would want to give to your fellow expats? Come to her show.
Come to my show.
Send me money.
If you're lonely, come to my comedy show. We will be your friend if you don't have any.
Ooh, nice.
Don't be afraid to try new things. Enjoy your time while you're here. Enjoy the subsidized healthcare because y'all know we are dying back in the US.
Wow.
I'm Kristen, your foreign neighbor from Haebongchang.
Yay! And also,
Correct.
your friendly neighbor.